Okay, we're just gonna wait another like a minute or two and then we'll get started. Just gonna wait one more minute to see if we have anyone else join us, and we'll get started. All right, Eric, are you ready here?
Yeah, I'm ready.
Okay, awesome. Well, thank you everyone for attending today. My name is Gabriella, this is Mari, and we are part of EPI's alumni team. And this is the fourth webinar in our alumni webinar series. And for anyone who hasn't attended before, this webinar series is for our alumni community and also anyone else that would like to attend to continue to connect our alumni community with conservation education. So we have awesome presenters from our EPI staff and then also other organizations who come on and give talks on different topics shaping the field today. Awesome. So today's presenter is Erick Bolaños. We're so excited to have him here. He is from Costa Rica and he is our Communication and Development Coordinator. His presentation today explores how active listening, empathy, and connection with both people and places are essential for effective two-way communication. Eric supports research, environmental education, and fundraising initiatives at Pequari Reserve, translating complex scientific work into accessible and inspiring narratives. He has experience working in both rural and conservation settings and corporate environments, allowing him to build meaningful bridges between communities, institutions, and donors. Eric has led workshops focused on storytelling, data presentation, effective calls to action, and breathwork, equipping students and young leaders with tools to advocate for conservation and behavior change in their communities. Eric, take it away.
Thank you for that amazing presentations. Sounds good. Okay, thank you everyone for joining us today in this webinar series. Today I'm going to share you a presentation. Okay, are you looking? Do you look my screen? Yes. Okay. Okay, let's talk about communication for environmental impact. I want to introduce myself. I'm Erick Bolaños. I'm from Costa Rica. I study graphic design, but I focus on audiovisual production and content generation for social media. I'm a forest lover. I like to make hikings and go to sport climbing and different things, all that you can do in the forest. And my totem animal, my favorite animal, is the three-toed sloth. I think it's because he is slow and precise in every movement and moves from the canopy of the forest to the land, to the soil, to the rivers. So I think it's an interesting animal. And following the current trendly with ChatGPT, I don't use ChatGPT to ask to describe me in one word. I ask to a friend, and I asked to my partner Azul, how do you describe me in one word? And he said, bridge builder. And I identified with this because I like to connect people, connect communities, connect friends. Yeah, I like to do that. So all this history about environmental communications begins here in Costa Rica, in Puerto Jimenez, 4 years ago. I lived in this place for 2 years. This is an amazing place. It's located in South Pacific, Costa Rica. National Geographic in some years ago described this place like the most biodiversity place in the world. Puerto Jimenez represents like 3% of world biodiversity. So it's an intense place and is not about the nature biodiversity is about the culture and the people is an amazing place. I invite you to visit this place. And my first experience with environmental communication was volunteering with Biriteca. Biriteca is a non-profit organization founded by these three amazing girls, and they work with agroecology and food sovereignty. So it's an amazing topic to working on communication because you need to reach different stakeholders since from communities, volunteers, and donors. So when I was working in this place, I identify different needs of the organizations, not only to create videos or photos. I identify that they need create powerful messages and understand the audiences and the channels and the access to the information of the people. In this is the agenda for today. We're going to talk about what is communication, the foundation of communication, how to know your audience, choosing the right channel to reach your audience, and how to create powerful message and turn these messages in action. Let me show the first question. I want to invite you to write in the chat what is communication for you. You can take some seconds, minutes to write. For me, communication is okay. I don't know if we have comments. Okay, let me show. Okay, we have one comment. Communication is connection, sharing with others, establishing the first step in a relationship. Oh, that's nice. Yes, for me, communication is all about this and is a process of connecting people, connecting places, and yeah. And in this slide, we can see different kind of communications. In nature, we can see the communication between each other species using sounds, using colors. The nature is our inspiration to communicate. So if we go into the forest, we can appreciate all these kind of ways to communicate. In the second picture, you can see the EPI students on Ecuador Reserve during this experience in Ecuador Reserve. They make some research about conservation and environmental issues of their communities and show the results using these paper boards and handwriting and pictures and draws. So this is another kind of communication. And the third example is in Pacua Reserve when we need to communicate to our visitors, ecotourists, or students where they are, or maybe some interesting fact about the species in the forest, or maybe to communicate that a donor is supporting some project, we use this kind of signals. So this is how communication is representing in different formats. And to me, communications start with listening. And like we read in the comments, is is the first step to establish a relationship, is sharing with others. So I don't know what kind of project do you have, are you handling, but it's important that communication starts with listening because the communication doesn't always start with a message. Sometimes it start with questions. We can ask the people different things. We can listening what people say, what people uh, care about, and what they suggest. And this is more important and take relevance if we are working in rural communities, in outside the cities. The people have a lot of ancient knowledge about the nature, about the culture. So it's very important to take every every key point, every story as part of our communication strategy. And I think when we are working with groups, with communities, a great exercise or practice is using papers and pilots, um, and the people can participate and be more engaged with our activities. And then um, I want to share with you the foundations of the communications, the communication, because the right message to the right audience through the right channel is a good communication. So the process starts with know our audience, who needs to receive our message. And next step will be where and how will they receive it? What channels of communication? In the presentation, we will talk about online and offline channels. And it's allow us to create a message. And if we can listening and understand but why what the people feel or why they remember, is important to get more incomes or highlights to for our communication. I love these pictures. This picture was I took this picture in Puerto Jimenez. It was a community meeting. And we can see in this picture different kind of people, different age, different interests, even different culture, language, and all these points reflects the different ways to access to the information. Maybe some of these people not doesn't have internet access, or maybe the young people use more digital channels. So know our audience allow us to create effective communication, and we can base our communication on the interests of the people, the needs, the knowledge, the motivations, and channels that they actually use. In social media and digital communication, we can segment the audiences by interest, by age, by language. So if you are working on digital strategy, you can use these facts to create a message and to make a kind of a post or reel that you can reach or engage your audience. If we talk about audiences, now we can talk about influence, because we live in a world that influence matters. And the person who influence an audience isn't always the person with the most followers. Oh, usually we heard about talking about digital influencers, but the teacher is an influencer, the community elder is an influencer, the religious leader is an influencer, the local organization, the community leader. Just you need to find the people your audience already trusts, people that be confidence. For example, if you if you work together, a digital influence is so important, depend of that topic, to have rules, or to have recommendations about these topics. In Costa Rica, we saw some issues in communication with digital influencers and talking about environmental topics. So is a good practice to have like a guide, to a basic guide of communication when you are worker with other people. I want to encourage you to be that person, because sometimes, or every time the projects needs a human story, and you can be this human face, this human story behind every project, because you can be this voice for change. And if it's your project, if you found the project is more powerful, if you share your story, your feels, your experiences to the people. So I know it takes time, but if you have the opportunity to be in first person and to engage with the people, it enhance your communication project. So I encourage you to be this human face behind your project. If we talk about choosing the right channel, we can we can see two ways, two main channels. We have the digital channels and we have the offline channels. So we need to ask, where do they get the information? Where my audience get the information? For example, I want to share with you this two example. In Puerto Jimenez, in that rural community, the people use WhatsApp groups to schedule community meetings. So maybe if I make a social media ads in Instagram or Facebook to schedule this meeting to convocate, it will be not effective. But if I use WhatsApp group and the people chat each others, this community meeting will be successful. Talking about the students, it depends of the age. Students use social media like TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. So if we are leading a recycle campaign using TikTok, encourage the students to make a communication campaign, make record reels, or whatever. They can reach other students and create an engagement, because if we show faces and people behind the projects, behind the messages, it creates more engage with the audiences. And the channel determines the action. For example, if I use digital channels, is more feasible that we can get donations, or if we are asking the people to share a content. But if we are looking for physical action for volunteer, for example, we can create a info center about volunteers in our offices, in our organizations, and we can have different call to actions dependiendo de los canales. Next, okay, this is my favorite part is create powerful messages. And um, this is an interesting part to work, because we can we can have different questions. For example, we can ask what, why, and what now. if we are asking the people what is happening, okay, let's talk about sea turtles. Okay, sea turtles are endangered in Costa Rica. So what is happening? Okay, the the coastal erosion is affecting our sea turtle nesting beach. Why does it matter? Because if we don't preserve the this species, the ecosystem is in danger. And what can change? Okay, what can we do differently? We can ask the people to make to help to support us our night census and patrol the beach to to be uh, preserving the X. And what can I do? We can ask the people specific actions. For example, come to be a volunteer with us. And these topics about places, values, spaces, or identity creates connections, and connections create relevance. For example, if we talk about a place, we can use some keywords about my community and my neighbors to get more engaged with the people. And if we are talking to people with values, we can talk and focus on what the people believe. For example, the people believe in change the world and in get make an impact in their communities. We can use these keywords. And to make a call to action from a message, we need to write um, a good call to action. For example, we have two options. One option is what do you want people to do? For example, okay, adopt a sea turtle nest, but we can change this and use a more powerful message. For example, why their action matters. So if you adopt a sea turtle nest, you are protecting the journey from the nest to the sea. So we can create a purpose, we can an action, and create these call to actions. For example, if we use only volunteers, is very basic. If we use volunteer with us, is more generic. But we can enhance these call to actions. For example, volunteer to protect the sea turtles, or best, if you use volunteer to protect sea turtles and support their conservation with aquatic reserve. And oh, I recommend you use a name, or the name of the place, the name of your organization to be more specific, because maybe a person only see your post, your message one time, and we need that people remember this message. And different actions and different call to actions. I show you some examples. For example, donate. You can use support wildlife monitoring and help protect vulnerable species. Join our next community restoration. Share if you are sharing some posts or digital banners. You can use share this story to help our project. Participate if you are making a call to a meeting, or volunteer. Volunteer with us to protect sea turtles and support their conservation. You can adapt every call to action to your mission, to your goal, to your objectives. And I I went to share with you this last phrase, and is don't start with what you want to say, start with who you want to reach, what they care about, and what do you want them to do. It's important to to create engage with the people, with the projects, and show like story. Every story creates more connection, more feelings to the people. And I think this is the basics of communication. And remember always to start with active listening. So thank you. And we open for questions.
Thank you so much, Eric. Yeah, we can open up to questions. So if anyone has any questions, you can feel free to open your mic or else share it in the chat, and then we will go from there. I know that I have a question, so I can also get the ball rolling. So I'm curious about how can we kind of navigate communicating effectively in an age of AI? Because obviously there is so much content online now, and especially with AI, there's even more content than there was before. So how do we get our messages across and communicate effectively when there's so much content online, particularly in light of AI?
Okay, yes, this is a real challenge, and the AI will be a useful tool, or we can create generic messages. So I currently use AI, but I try to create a good prompt with my information, using data data of our projects, and be specific with our audiences without the way that we talk with our audience, and use the AI to organize the information, not to make that creative work, because I think only this creative work who can be um, made by us. And yes, so my recommendation is create a good prompts and use the AI to organize the information. And if we are talking about pictures, yeah, some people have issues because maybe we are using more AI instead hire a photographer or videographer. But I think we can use a mix. For example, I use AI to expand sometimes to expand the background of the pictures to adapt with to a post or a banner. So yeah, I think we can use the AI with different yeah ways. Okay, we have another question. My favorite project. Um, I think my favorite project was working with vanilla producers in Puerto Jimenez. Yeah, I learned about these vanilla farms, and was interesting because they create uh all community with producers and help them to sell the products. Okay, what is your best piece of advice you recent rather ecology conservation looking for? Very good. Okay, my best piece of advice was about sea turtle conservation. I made a video, an inspiring video to encourage people to visit Aqua Reserve. So I can share it with you after the presentation, the link video. Um, yes, and what is one of your favorite communication campaigns you've worked, and why? My favorite communication campaign. Let me. mm, was two years ago. I was working with OSA Birds. OSA Birds was a nonprofit organization focused on environmental education and birding. So was an interesting campaign because we get close to the communities and work with kids, and we make some advices and advertising banners to identify birds of this place, and the people learn about the ecosystemic value of this species, and they work to preserve this place and to develop ecotourism based on birding. So I like this work because was very immersive in the community and in the forest. Okay, the best way to gather information from your audience depend of the channel. In social media, you can use the polls. For example, in Instagram story, you can post a poll and ask people things, or invite people to join a forum, or even you can use WhatsApp group polls, yeah, questions. And yeah, I think the first step is to identify your audience, the channel, and yeah, and maybe ask the people, yeah, hey, if you have a group, hey, I want to make more about how what is the relationship with you and with the river in your community or difference, and the people sometimes or always will be accessible to give us information. But then to create change. For people trying to create change without an established audience or access to advanced resources, what tools would you recommend for content campaign creation? Um, okay. Let me, okay. I think social media is the cheaper way to reach audiences. So, mm, okay, if you have resources, maybe ex yeah, for me, if working for first time in a project, I use the video reels to show the people what am I doing, and why am I doing. For example, the people in Simon Sinek is like a commercial conferences. I'm talking about merchandising, and he talks. We have a golden circle and start with why, what, and how. And it said some examples. For example, they talk about Microsoft. Microsoft starts with the what. Okay, what we create computers, how we use the best chips, microchips, and why? Because we are a computer for companies. We make computer for companies. But Apple works different. Apple works start with the why and why. Okay, we change your status quo with technology, and what? we create the best and cool technology, and how we use the microchips. Okay, the same microchips. So with this example, I try to show you that the most important is start with why, and to tell the people your story, if it's in a conference, in a talk, in a webinar, or if you are using our video reel. Yeah, is if you have the opportunity, tell the people why you are doing your project, or yeah, or your organization.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Eric. I don't know if anyone has any last questions. You can feel free to put them in the chat, but otherwise, I'll kind of finish us off here. So thank you so much, Eric, for your presentation. This is really interesting and informative, especially for those of us who are working within environmental education. This presentation was being recorded, and we're going to send a recording to everyone via email, and it will be accessible on YouTube. Our next webinar will be on October 28th, and it will be presented by Kurt Kohlhoff with the Greater Yellowstone Coalition, and will explore the climate-linked challenges facing rivers and streams in the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem, and how conservationists are working in tandem with beavers to protect the clean, cold waters of the Greater Yellowstone ecosystem. And we hope to see you all there. Thank you all so much for joining, and have a great rest of your night.
Thank you. Bye bye.
Bye.